remember this, being the villain in someone else's story means that you finally given yourself permission to become the hero in your own. Welcome back to the Redefining Wealth podcast. I'm Patrice Washington, your host, and this is the place where you come to every week to learn more about what it means to chase purpose, not money. Around here, we don't define wealth as just money and material possessions. For 8 years now, I have been teaching you that wealth is so much more than that. It is the condition of well being and happiness. And one of the ways that we can be well is to give ourselves permission to offend. And dare I say, enter our villain era. If you are just tuning in, this is the last episode in an amazing season that has been dedicated to one of my dear friends, Rachel Luna, who actually transitioned on August 4th. And for 11 episodes now, this entire season, I have dedicated it to the brilliance of her work and permission to offend. And we're coming to the end. And let me say, whoa, this season has been good. This season has been about that one thing, giving yourself permission to offend, permission to be radically honest, and permission to evolve. And I wanted to close this season by offering one last type of permission, and that is the permission to be the villain. Oh, yes. Because let me tell you, the truth is, we don't resist transformation just because it's hard to do. We really resist it because we don't want to be misunderstood by others. We don't want to lose the comfort of being liked, being accepted, even if it means losing the integrity of being our most authentic selves. But offense and action are the heartbeat of transformation. And Rachel often reminds us that change doesn't just happen when you simply hear the truth. It happens when you practice living in your truth every single day. Doesn't have to be loud, but it does have to be consistent. So the reason so many of us stay stuck at the awakening or redefining level is because we stop short of actualizing. We love revelation, but we resist when it's time for repetition. We love learning, but we don't like what happens when we have to live it out because it'll cost us our comfort, sometimes our relationships, even our reputation. But let me say this, on the other side of permission to offend is also permission to be the villain. Because I know firsthand that when you finally stop betraying yourself to keep the peace, someone is going to call you difficult. Someone may call you the B word. Someone is going to say, oh, you've changed. You're just not like you used to be. Someone is going to even label your governing decisions, or as you may know them as boundaries, as betrayal. But I need you to know that that is not villainy, that is self integrity, because there are so many people who have benefited from your lack of standards for so long that now your boundaries feel like an inconvenience to them. It feels like a threat to some of the silent agreements that you've made. And now that you want to make solid agreements, there's a problem. But it's really not your job to make your evolution palatable to any and everyone. It is your responsibility to make your life peaceful. It is your responsibility to live in authenticity and alignment if you want to see authentic success, if you want to see genuine acceleration. Because I'll just say this, all of this is where faith actually meets action, right? This is where we give ourselves to stop performing in order to be seen as polite by people and start practicing our truth, walking in our anointing, being bold and being brave and being courageous, even when it's not welcome or accepted. Because as we've learned all season long, silence does not automatically equal peace, and avoidance doesn't make you more spiritually or relationally mature. Offense is not about just being reckless with your words, it is about being real. As one of my clients, Dr. Lisa, says, radical honesty is loving kindness. It is the bridge between what you believe and what you're actually willing to walk out loud with, because you do love people and you want to have genuine connection, conversation, and relationship. So, as we close this season, I wanted to use this opportunity to remind you that you have permission to be misunderstood. And you have permission to stand firm no matter what anyone thinks about it. You have permission to walk it out fully because real transformation does not happen when you're celebrated. It happens when you start to choose truth, even when it costs you the applause you've become comfortable with. That is permission to offend. That is permission to act. And yes, that is permission to be the villain in someone's story. So I'm going to give you five kind of tips or steps, if you will, as soon as we complete the permission slip of the week. This week's permission slip is I give myself permission to be the villain. I release the need to be understood by everyone and choose to understand myself more deeply. I trust that standing in my truth will offend some, but it will free me completely. I honor this era as my villain era, the season where alignment matters more than your approval. I am no longer afraid of being the villain if it means I finally get to be my full self. Declare with me today, I give myself permission to be the villain. So I hope that permission slip is a blessing to you. I'm going to dive right in and remind you of something that I actually just shared in the Redefining Wealth app. I just talked about how acceleration requires action. And the truth is, a lot of us desire transformation, but we don't want to make the offense that might lead to that transformation. And we're not always willing to take the action. The truth is, knowledge without action is comfort in disguise. It is not enough to keep gathering information. That is not wisdom. Wisdom is knowing how to apply it, when to apply it, why to apply it, with whom. And so you've had all of these amazing conversations, and hundreds and hundreds of you have been reading Permission to Offend with us in the Redefining Wealth app. And so now that you have the information on offense, you have to be willing to take action on it if you're actually going to transform your life. Every time you practice what you've learned, I don't care how small, every time you practice what you've learned, instead of just posting about it, instead of just keeping notes in your journal, keeping notes in your phone, putting little cute post-its on your mirror, but actually practice it, you offend not only other people, you offend the parts of your old identity that prefer convenience over conviction. Transformation cannot just be a moment, it has to be a muscle. And I don't know if you remember Deetra Giles when she was on the podcast this season. She said, insight without action is just information. In order for us to actually transform our lives, we're going to have to put permission to offend to use. It cannot be this cute little thing we heard on the podcast. It can't be these, just journaling exercises that we got from Rachel's book. It has to be a part of the fabric of our lifestyle, that we are more committed to taking these words and taking this work and actually applying it in our everyday lives, right? So if you've been sitting with all of this, the books, the conversations, the sticky notes, the reflections, and you're wondering what's next, taking action is next. Not only because you need to offend others and be willing to offend others, but because you are ready to offend your old self, the version of you that stayed nice just to get along, the version of you that misunderstood kindness for niceness, right? Like we can be kind and people not like that kindness. But being nice just to say, oh, I was nice, no. Welcome to the villain era. We're done with that, because this is where real changes. This is where like real life happens. I am a kind person, and I am also okay with the fact that some people will think that I'm not nice because I'm not allowing them to simply just take advantage of me because they want to. I'm not allowing them to misunderstand and misinterpret my words and add all this extra stuff to what I said. No, I'm very clear that what I said is what I said. And Rachel gives us so many scripts at the end of Permission to Offend to support you in having those conversations. But I'm no longer threatened by the idea that someone thinks I'm not nice. I know that I'm a kind person. I know that I have a good heart. I know that I mean and wish well for everyone. However, you will not take advantage of me in this season. I am in my villain era. Rachel says living freely doesn't mean living without challenge or opposition. It is so important for us to recognize that and accept that upfront. because growth creates villains in other people's stories. When you grow, when you start to stand for your truth, when you stop betraying yourself, when you stop setting yourself on fire to keep other people warm, of course you will become a villain. Of course you will be told or talked about as, oh, but she used to let me do this, or he used to think that was okay. There's no way for you to redefine wealth for yourself and start to dismantle external validations that don't fit you without rattling a few feathers, without offending, right? The old version of yourself, but the old version of who people thought you were. They didn't even care about the fact that you were performing to keep them happy. But when you start to come out and say, actually, based on who I am now, based on what I desire now, based on what I see for myself now, I apologize, but that version of me did not serve me and cannot continue. Of course, it's going to turn into a story about how you became the villain. People will misinterpret your healing as hostility towards them, and it's not even about them. It is about you and your growth and your evolution, right? But when we stop performing politeness and we start practicing alignment, everything shifts. The greatest betrayal that we will face, though, is not offending others, it is abandoning ourselves. When we do the work in the 6 pillars of wealth and we think about who do I want to be? How do I want to live in each one of these pillars? What is real for me? What is true? What is genuine? And it doesn't necessarily align with what someone else has assigned to us or the box that people want to keep us in. We get to ask ourselves, am I more committed to having them be upset with me or continuing to betray my own soul? For the first time ever, Redefining Wealth Live 2026 tickets are officially open, and we are doing something we've never done before. You can grab your virtual ticket for just $297. Let me tell you, that's nearly 60% off the regular price of $697. But this is only if you are one of the first 100 purpose chasers to say yes to join me for this 3-day transformational experience that will realign your purpose, your peace, and your prosperity, all from wherever you are in the world. And this year, I am taking that virtual experience up, not one notch, but maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 notches. And because you're acting early, I'm also going to gift you access to the Pillar Planning Retreat 2026 this January so that you can start your year aligned. Head to redefiningwealthlive.com to grab your virtual ticket to Redefining Wealth Live 2026 right now, because this kind of offer has never happened before and it may never happen again. I want to see you at Redefining Wealth Live 2026. Be one of the first 100 and enjoy this homecoming of alignment. It goes down September 2026. Am I going to continue to betray myself to keep them comfortable? That leads me to this. When we say that we have strong faith, we have to believe that even in them seeing us as the villain, there is still victory for both sides in the end. Because when we choose to liberate ourselves, as Elizabeth Gilbert says, we do liberate others. And even when people don't get it in real time, even when it is uncomfortable for them, even when it is upsetting to them. At the end of the day, I do believe that people who genuinely love us, genuinely want good for us, want to see us do well. When they see us living our truth, it gives them permission to also live their truth, but they also get to see us walk out our own faith, because faith is trusting that every loss, every rejection, every uncomfortable conversation is still a part of the journey. It is still a part of the assignment. It is still a part of our soul's refinement, right? Belief isn't tested when things are easy. You don't get to see your belief tested until you start ruffling some feathers and embodying something new, until you start speaking different language, until you start enforcing those boundaries that you keep talking about setting, that you keep putting in your journal. Not when you say them, but when you live from them. You have to have faith. You have to have belief that this is in the best interest of all parties, because we all get to be authentically who we are. If I keep performing for you, do you even really love the real me? Do you even know the real me? It is actually not kind. It is a disservice to you to keep hiding who I really am, hoping for some type of love and affection and acceptance and appreciation for a version of me that is not even real, right? Faith without works is dead. You cannot believe that you have been given all of these tools, all of the frameworks that Rachel talks about in her book, all of the brilliant conversations that we have here on this podcast, only to toy with your emotions, only to dangle something in front of you that you don't deserve. No, the fact that you are in this community, the fact that you can hear me right now, the fact that you are listening to this podcast says to me that your soul has been yearning and searching for some type of truth, something to give it permission to just unlock itself. You need to hear it in these terms. You need to know that it's not going to be roses and rainbows and lollipops. You may be the villain in someone's story. And let me remove the may. You will be the villain in someone's story. But do you believe that it is worth it in order for you to have everything that you know you've been promised in this lifetime? Do you believe that it is worth it to be willing to lose their affection, their adoration, their appreciation so that you can come into full authenticity and full alignment with your soul's design? The only way we get to work out whether we really believe this is to practice what we've learned, is to use the language, to use the tools, to use the frameworks, to do the journaling, to do the work, to use the scripts, have the conversations. Speak your truth with empathy and conviction, but speak your truth because your works are evidence of the belief you say you have. It is not enough to say, oh, I believe, I believe, I believe, and then you're not ever willing to act it out, to walk it out, to practice it. Transformation comes from doing the same thing every day. It is a daily decision to practice what you say you believe. Transformation happens in the repetition. It is in the small, quiet, daily moments, daily choices where you are literally choosing to stay in alignment instead of slipping back into approval seeking. Let me see if I can find it here. I typically, all my little stickies are wearing out, but many of you who know me know that I love keeping stickies on my computer, on my desktop. And one of them is, for those of you who might be able to make it out as I'm doing the video here on YouTube, is I won't go back. It is a reminder to me often that I have to stay in this practice. I have to stay in this work. I will not go back to betraying myself. When I got a divorce on what would have been my 15th or 16th wedding anniversary, I actually wrote vows to myself. And in those vows, I was very clear about the behavior I would not go back to. I am willing to offend anyone, anyone, because I know I'm not going to do it from a vicious, malicious, like misaligned place. No, I'm willing to offend anyone in order to keep my vows to myself. If me keeping the vows to myself to treat myself with a certain level of respect and integrity and hold myself in high honor, which informs the relationships I will participate in and not participate in, if that offends you, so be it. If that makes someone upset with me, so be it. So be it. Because in order to stay in alignment and not slip back, and again, keep that mantra. I won't go back into approval seeking, into abandoning myself to make someone else happy, into putting someone else above myself when I know what is right, over prioritizing like external definitions and validation instead of honoring my internal intuition. I will not go back. And if that offends you, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with it. But it's a daily choice. It's a daily reminder. When you have lived one way for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years of your life, you better believe it has to be a daily choice, a daily commitment to do the opposite. This is why I tell everyone in the Redefining Wealth app that space exists so that we can continue to be around the language of abundance, the language of governing decisions, the language of vision, the language of dreaming a new dream, the language of purpose. Because you slip back when you start to put yourself in spaces and places where people use the language of lack and scarcity and limiting belief and dimming your light and all those things. You have to stay around the language. You have to stay in that energy. You have to stay in that embodiment. It is imperative to your success, but really to your soul's liberation, to your ability to redefine wealth for yourself. Let me ask you, how do you know which part of your life is actually keeping you from the results you say you want? Most people guess, and then they wonder why they're still stuck. But that's why I created the Pillar Progress Assessment. It helps you identify which of the 6 pillars of wealth need your attention right now, so you can stop spinning your wheels and finally move forward in alignment. I also go deeply into the building blocks that build that pillar, so you know exactly what your next steps should be. Take the assessment now at patricewashington.com/pillar assessment. That's patricewashington.com/pillar assessment, or click the link in the show notes and get your next steps to greater authenticity, alignment, and abundance in order. And lastly, I don't even think I presented these as like points, but I'm looking at my notes. Lastly, this is about redefining peace. Peace is not the absence of conflict. It is the presence of clarity. It is not kind to avoid these conversations. It is not kind to indulge in continuous self abandonment. It is not kind to endure the restlessness that happens in your soul when you know you are continuing to stay in places that are intolerable for you in this season. Boundaries, governing decisions, radical honesty are all sacred. They are not selfish. They are not to be weaponized. They are not to be demonized. I understand, though, because I've lived it, I've experienced it, that when you come from this place and when you speak this way, people will take it harshly and they will make you out to be the villain. But this is where I want to remind you that this is sacred work. This is not selfish. This is your opportunity to redefine peace. And you don't know how peaceful you are and how peaceful you can be and how peaceful you've become until someone tries to misrepresent your growth, until someone tries to add some stories that didn't even happen, recreate history, do all the things, change up the entire narrative, get amnesia about what they did and how they participated in the breakdown of the relationship. It's just not romantic, but in the partnership, in any type of human connection, right? You will become the villain when you step away, when you step outside of that, when you come out of that silent agreement. And it's okay. This is your chance to redefine peace. You only know that you truly embody peace when you're in the midst of a storm. If everything is rainbows and sunshines, you don't know how much peace you really have. And I want to submit to you that as you continue to process the work of Rachel Luna through Permission to Offend, the work that we do here at Redefining Wealth, that you will come to know just how far you've come and how much you've grown. It's not until you embrace the villain era that you really know, that you can really see and hear and know in your gut what others are saying about you and how it's going, and know that you don't care, that you are just fine. You've always been fine and you will be fine. This has been quite the season. It has been filled with depth and reflection and the kind of truth telling that shakes someone loose from the inside out. I'm so grateful for every guest who said yes to this season, every share, every download honoring my dear friend Rachel Luna through this Permission to Offend season, because this has been healing and humbling. And I jumped right into it as soon as she passed. Actually, at the time of this recording, this is the 90-day anniversary of her passing. And it feels very full circle and complete to end this season here. The point of this was to make sure that her work lived on well beyond August 4th. And even now, as I close the season, I have felt a little uneasiness. I talked about this in the Redefining Wealth app, because the question that comes up for me is, what do we do now? But the truth is, I don't fully know what's next, and I'm not attached or committed to that. I do know that Rachel's work is brilliant. I do know that Permission to Offend will be read for decades and decades and millennia to come. I do know that having these conversations, giving yourself permission to be unfiltered and unafraid and unapologetic in your truth, is the greatest way that we can all honor her legacy. Because when we live unafraid to offend, we can have radical honesty. We can have deeply connected relationships. When we choose alignment over approval, we're doing more than just living boldly. We're embodying what Rachel loves so much, which is faith in action. We become living proof about her message, right? And that's the thing. It didn't end with her. It continues through me. It continues through us, through each of us who dare to practice it and dare to walk it out and actualize this in our everyday lives. So as we wrap this season, it would mean so much to me and to Rachel's legacy if you take these lessons, these tools, these truths, these frameworks, and you walk them out, you live them, you practice them, you become them, let it become a part of your DNA. Because as you walk into this next season, which I am calling our villain era, remember this: being the villain in someone else's story means that you finally given yourself permission to become the hero in your own. Every time I have walked away from what did not serve me and what was not aligned for me, it was difficult, it was hard, it was tumultuous, it was painful, there was so much grief, but the gratitude on the other side of being willing to offend and being willing to be the villain in someone else's story has unlocked a greater vision that I could have never imagined had I continued to keep myself small or trapped or stuck being a supporting character in someone's story who didn't even care when it was all said and done. So become the hero in your story. Give yourself permission to be the villain. And as far as what's next, now that this season is up, I just want you to enjoy your holidays. Thank you for spending this time with me. You will still be hearing from me. If I have something to say, I will pop in those sporadic episodes as needed. Definitely have some surprise episodes as I travel about. Now that my daughter is officially in college, the next level of my Ignited Aligned vision has unlocked, and it includes a lot of travel from beautiful destinations all over the world. And so, as I travel, I'll still record episodes and I'll pop in here and there. But if you really want to stay connected, I'm still going live in the Redefining Wealth app. You can download on your Android or iOS device every single day, pouring into that community through December 15th. And then we'll see what it looks like from there. I also want to say be on the lookout for updates about Redefining Wealth Live. Actually, at the time of this recording, a very special drop of tickets, virtual tickets, will be coming available at a price that is insane. And this will be the one and only time that you can grab your Redefining Wealth Live 2026 virtual ticket at this price. And then we'll also have our Pillar Planning Retreat in January, as we do every year. But until then, until we talk again, just keep practicing permission. All of these permission slips, maybe we'll turn them into one big thing that we can put in the app. I'll talk to my team about that. But stay tuned, stay connected, keep standing in your truth, keep redefining wealth, and keep walking boldly into your villain era. It has been my honor to serve you this season. Again, if this is your first time, make sure you pick up your copy of Permission to Offend. You can also listen on Audible and hear my friend's beautiful voice and all of her humor as she shares her brilliant work. And I think we'll be back with a full season in January. So stay tuned. Thank you for 8 amazing years of redefining wealth. If you miss me, we have over 434 episodes that you can go dive into. But until then, I want you to go live your life's purpose, find fulfillment, and keep earning more without feeling like you have to chase money. Thank you so much for another amazing season of redefining wealth. I'll talk to you later.